When you're dealing with really complex systems, knowing that something is broken is, well, it's just the very first step. So today, we're going to dive into the 3 essential tools, the 3 pillars of observability that help us figure out the why.
You know the feeling, right? It's 3 a.m., an alarm starts blaring, your system is down, the pressure is on, and all you know for sure is that something is very, very wrong. You look at your dashboards, and they're just a sea of red lights, but they're not really telling you the whole story. I mean, in a system with hundreds of services all talking to each other, where do you even begin to search for that one tiny thing that's causing all the chaos?
Okay, to solve this, we're going to try something a little different. We're not going to think like engineers for a minute. Instead, we're going to think like doctors. Let's pretend our system is the patient, and it's our job to run a full diagnosis to figure out what's really going on under the hood.
And you know, just like any good doctor, we have a specific set of diagnostic tools at our disposal. For us, those are the 3 pillars: metrics, logs, and traces. And the real magic happens when you use them together, because that's when they reveal the complete picture of our system's health.
So, let's start with the very first step in any checkup, taking the patient's vitals. In our world, these are what we call metrics.
At their core, metrics are actually pretty simple. They're just numbers measured over a period of time. You can think of them as the system's vital signs. Its heart rate, its temperature, its blood pressure.
And these vitals are all the things you're probably already familiar with: CPU usage, error rates, response times. They're awesome because they're fast, they're lightweight, and they're absolutely perfect for building dashboards and setting up alerts.
But, and this is a really important but, here's their big limitation. Metrics can tell you the patient has a fever, right? That the error rate is spiking, but they have no idea why. And to find that out, we have to dig a little deeper.
So that brings us to our next diagnostic tool, the trace. Now think of a trace as giving our system a full-on CT scan. It lets us see the entire journey of a single request as it winds its way through all the different parts of the system from beginning to end.
A trace is what connects all the dots. It literally follows one request on its adventure through all the different services in your application, showing you the complete end-to-end flow. And you can see that journey right here. A request comes in, it hits the API gateway, then it goes through authentication, it queries a database, maybe it calls out to some external service, and then finally it sends a response back. A trace maps out that whole sequence for us.
And this is just incredibly powerful because a trace answers the where question. Where's the bottleneck? Is the database being slow? A trace can pinpoint the exact service, the exact spot where the delay or the failure is happening.
Okay, so now we know that something is wrong and we know where it's wrong. Now we need to know why. And for that, we turn to our final tool, logs. You can think of this as the detailed biopsy report.
Logs are really the most granular, detailed data we have. They're these time-stamped records of very specific events that happened at a very specific point in time inside a service.
And the details you get in this report are just so rich. We're talking exact timestamps, specific error messages, the actual request details, and even stack traces that can point you to the precise line of code that went haywire.
But here's the catch with logs. A busy system generates a massive amount of them. It's like trying to find one specific word in an entire library. So without the context that our metrics and our traces give us, logs are often just noise.
And this is where it all comes together. See, each pillar is useful on its own, for sure, but their true power, the real game changer, is when we combine them to get a complete diagnosis.
So let's just quickly recap this whole philosophy. Metrics are the vitals. They tell you that something is wrong. Traces are the CT scan. They show you where it's going wrong. And finally, logs are that detailed biopsy. They reveal exactly why it's all going wrong.
All right, so let's walk through a real incident step by step. It starts here. Your metrics dashboard lights up. You see a huge spike in the error rate. Right away, you know that something is wrong.
So what's next? You pull up the traces for those requests that are failing, and the path leads you straight to the scene of the crime. The payment service is timing out. Now you know where the problem is. And finally, with all that context, you filter the logs for just the payment service, right at the time of the failure. And boom, there it is, the root cause, a single null pointer exception. Now you know why it failed. Diagnosis complete.
And that right there is the key insight.
True observability isn't just about collecting more and more data. It's about connecting the right data. It's about using metrics, traces, and logs together to tell a coherent story about what your system is actually doing.
And that really just leaves us with one final question. Now that you have this diagnostic framework, this idea of vitals, CT scans, and biopsies, what hidden problems, what mysteries could you finally go and uncover in your own systems?